Avi Meyers, Northtown News Magazine, Neighborhood News Magazine. Thanks to my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, caps24.org. Want to introduce you to my next guest, Richard Concaildi, who basically is a concerned citizen. Well, a lot more than that. I'll let him tell you in the neighborhood. Richard,
thank you
pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me on the program, Avi. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come here.
It's my pleasure. And what would you like to talk to us about?
Well, I think probably the thing that is most concerning to some of the neighborhood community people that I've been working with, some of the neighborhood block clubs, et cetera, is the lack of involvement, the apparent lack of involvement of the alderman and the alderman's office, if you will, to keep the citizenry informed about new development that's going on in the area. And that's a consideration and a concern that a lot of people have. There's a lot of upsurge of I would say that concern that what's happening in the neighborhood is being done without a lot of input. And that's something that we want to be able to see if we can work with the alderman's office to be able to proactively get a, if you will, a community oversight committee pulled together, that we can work directly with the alderman, with new development that happens in the area, and to be able to support programs and work with the system, but also be able to make sure that we have some valid input.
Okay. Very good. Now, there are specific topics right now that are of concern to you?
There are, yes. There's a number of them that have come up, and some of these may sound like they're a little bit old, but I would like to focus on maybe just 3 or 4 based upon the amount of time that we have.
Okay.
For example, if I may,
please.
if I put my
don't ask me. Just do it.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. If we wanted to, I'd like to touch base on just a couple particular developments that we think we can demonstrate this. Case in point, the Devon Rockwell parking lot project that has been going on for a couple of years now. This was brought up, quite frankly, at a TIF meeting that was about, I think, the end of March.
I was there.
I remember that. And Bernie was there, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Alderman Stone was there. And the discussion basically rounded about what's happening with that particular project. And the project was intended, apparently originally, a couple, 3 years ago, to be able to increase the number of parking spots by some 200 spots. And at the end of the day, though, when you look at the actual diagrams, and I'm not an architect, but I've talked with people that are architects, and they've evaluated it, and quite frankly, I believe it, that at the end of the day, there's probably going to be a net of about 60 additional spots.
So you really think that 60 number is a real number?
That's about it. You're going to get maybe 60 more than what we have today. And when you look at the background about how this came about and what is planned, which is, and again, I'm not an architect, but it's not laser surgery to see some of the drawings that are just basically not to scale. It's just very difficult to anybody with common sense to believe that these cars can make the turn into this entrance ramp and egress ramps, et cetera, putting a cul-de-sac on Rockwell, things of that nature, where it's going to lose all the parking spots potentially on Rockwell proper. Is it really doing what the community really needs? On top of that, it's about 6 stories tall. It's going to have condominiums in there. Some of the parking that's allocated that's going to be built is allocated for the condominium folks. There's going to be some storefront, which is good for the neighborhood, obviously, more business, which is wonderful. However, they have to also have a place to park their cars, so some of those spots are gone. Right. So by the time you're all done, net, maybe you got about 60 spots. So with that in mind, that's a concern. Is that a good investment for tax money? Okay. Whether it's TIF or not, the bottom line is that a good investment, and does it really fit with the density, the height, some of those things that are in the neighborhood today? 6 stories tall next to a 2-story or 2-flat bungalow is going to stand out pretty tough.
Right.
So,
one thing I will tell you, first of all, I do know that this has been talked about for years, but because we've talked about it on the show, but the fact is, I have to admit that as much as I've talked to the alderman, I never knew it was going to be 70 feet high. That really kind of surprised me.
Yeah, and again, it's not considered to be a high rise, because as Alderman Stone pointed out, 80 is, I think, the number where it becomes a high rise, but 70 feet, when you look at that compared to the neighborhood, it's really going to stand out like a sore thumb.
That's really tall. I mean, I will be honest, I really want to see Devon and Rockwell cul-de-sac. I think it's the rudest intersection one of the rudest, not just the cars, the people walking on the street, their red lights. I mean, sometimes I want the police to be there with the machine gun for everybody who violates the law there. But we wouldn't have any neighborhood left.
But, you know, that's the beauty of this neighborhood, this whole community, is that we have such a diverse
I like
melting
that.
pot. It is. It's absolutely, that's one of the things
Well, see, actually, you know what, I'm gonna slightly amend what you're saying, because it's not just a diverse melting pot, it's that we're nice, the people are nice people.
Oh, absolutely.
The melting pot is one thing, but you know what, if you got jerks, it's another story. We have a lot of really nice, everything's peaceful here, all the groups fairly get along, and I think that's the nicest thing, and I like the melting pot. As a matter of fact, I hate to say it, you know, white Christians are the minority here. Well, I figure you're a good Catholic being Italian, so.
I'd like to think so. Thank you very much.
So, okay, I don't quite include you in the Protestant line, but that's the minority.
I appreciate that. But I guess the thing is, and that's what's so attractive. That's is very attractive to this neighborhood. That's why my wife and I moved here, quite frankly, many years ago. And I'm a native Chicagoan, and we can live anywhere. And this is where we decided to settle. If I can focus on one or two other quick points.
Please do it. I want you to do it.
There is another project which has been planned, which has actually been championed by a young man named Jonathan Stopek. Right over
I know
there.
him.
And a very nice gentleman. And there's a committee put together about the Park Plaza development that's identified actually on the edge of the TIF here over on Sacramento, about 6800 north on Sacramento, roughly, just south of the JCC.
Right.
And this is intended to be a series of condominiums, actually, that are going to be in 64 four-story townhomes that are going to be 8 or 9 deep, 8 or 9 buildings, in addition to what's there for Park Plaza. So there's a lot of concern there, and when I got to meet Jonathan and sat down with him for a few minutes, and he told me about what this is all about, and again, that's part of what I've been doing is doing some polling and some investigative work, if you will. I'm firmly convinced that the committee and the 6 rabbis that have signed part of this committee form and petitions and whatnot are absolutely correct that the developer did not have the community's best interest in mind to be able to develop this particular facility.
Now, these are 4-story. I mean, if it's 4 stories, that's now is the single-family 4-story townhome?
I haven't personally been able to determine whether that's going to be single-family or not, but I would assume it would be. They're going to be in rows of 8 or 9 per building, 64 in total, and 4-story tall. And that's going to take more parking, more traffic. We know how busy that Sacramento is with the school, the park, JCC.
Right.
And it's just going to be another issue we've actually brought that up at CAPS on 2411 because of traffic issues.
Okay.
Because that's a consideration too.
Well, that, and plus if they actually finish building those new homes on Kedzie, and if the school goes in but yeah, that could become a much busier area than it is now.
It could be, and that's a consideration too. So if we take a look at, though, just some of the other considerations about the TIF, and that was where we first originally met. And it's not so much that the community groups are necessarily opposed to the TIF. I mean, when we look, and we have to be realistic about this, and we've been working directly with the Neighborhood Capital Budget Group and a few other organizations, and there's never been a TIF, to our knowledge, that has really been defeated. However, so we have to understand and embrace the system, but what we're looking to do is to be able to get community involvement, positive community involvement for responsible development. And that's what we're really looking to do, and to have not just lip service, we're looking for actual commitment. Where other wards have done this, and we're looking to accelerate this. There's a consensus, there's critical mass that's grown, there's a number of neighborhood groups that have grown in numbers, websites are popping all over the place, and what we've had to do, quite frankly, is to be able to, with the assistance of CAPS 2411, we set up another website, which is just for non-policing dialogue about these issues, to help keep the dialogue going while we establish a brand new website, which is literally going to be called westrogerspark.org.
westrogerspark.org.
Right, and we're looking to have that come up within the next quarter or so.
And people don't have to www. And by the way, stay tuned to our website because hopefully we'll get a link to you guys and all that.
That would be marvelous. And right now I would really recommend that if at all possible they want to get involved with what's happening, check out the links about everything from tax assessment, checking things out about the Devon Rockwell project, the status, the Park Plaza, what's happening on TIF. We're doing education with neighborhood groups about TIF 101, if you will, about what does it mean and how does it help and what can it do, where can it go wrong. It's just a good, positive attitude. And case in point is we're working very closely with Amy from the Chamber of Commerce.
Amy Zander for the Westridge Chamber. And yeah, we're going to have to wrap it up. If people want to contact you?
If you want to contact me, they're welcome to contact me directly on my office number, which is 773-274-3633. And if they want 773-274-3633.
Yes,
and if they want to get to a website, we'll just go to this last website right here, which is from CAPS, which is groups.yahoo.com/group/WRogersPK.
Real good. Richard Concaildi, my guest, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks, Sonny, and have a good one. Good luck.
Thank you very much.